Today on Judge Faith, did he try to seduce a senior? Or did this cub get caught by a cougar?
Judge, you ever see the dog?
Yes, ma'am.
He's a low-down dirty dog right there.
She sure flirted with me. She was trying to take me out of town to Miami.
Wait a minute, let's keep it understanding. You think that he was flirting with you and
He saw a pretty woman.
don't mess with Miss Walker, okay? Do not mess with Miss Walker.
And later,
I look at her and she's all like, oh, she gets out of her car. I'm sorry. My flip-flop got caught on the gas pedal. She's got on socks and flip-flop, and I'm going, okay, yeah, no wonder, okay.
Socks and flip-flops?
Yeah.
Is that a fashion statement in Michigan?
Faith Jenkins. Her distinguished legal career began when she graduated first in her law school class. She quickly became a tough New York City prosecutor, and then a preeminent legal analyst on cable news. And now she's the judge in her own courtroom. Her cases are real, and her rulings are final. She is Judge Faith. Plaintiff Liddell Walker says she paid landscaper Isaac Williams to return her lawn to its former glory. But instead, he took all the money and left her yard unfinished. The defendant says he completed the job and that she's being unreasonable.
Remain seated and come to order. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Your Honor, this is Walker versus Williams.
Thank you, Barbara. Miss Walker, you're suing the defendant for $475 for an incomplete landscaping job. Mr. Williams, you claim you completed the job, so you owe the plaintiff nothing. Ms. Walker, we'll start with you. How do you know the defendant?
About this low-down dirty dog. He was supposed to do my lawn. I gave him $475. I was not pleased. He did not trim the hedges.
Hold on a second,
He
sir.
did not manicure my lawn. He didn't edge it up. You know, I wanted a beautiful lawn.
How did you meet the defendant?
I met this low-down dirty dog at Home Depot.
Why are you calling him a low-down dirty dog, ma'am?
Judge, you ever see the dog?
Yes, ma'am.
He's a low-down dirty dog right there.
What happened when you met him at Home Depot?
Well, you know, I'm gonna buy me a new lawnmower and I get my grandson to cut my lawn. So I'm there at Home Depot looking at the lawnmowers. I don't know too much about them. I'm just looking. This low-down dirty dog walked in. He saw a pretty woman. I asked him, do you know anything about lawns? Come on over here. He like, that one is good. But now he got his pitch. But I do lawns. I thought, well, maybe I get him to do my lawn, manicure my lawn for the first time, then my grandson could just cut it.
Okay, so is that what happened?
Yeah, I said, okay. I walked out of Home Depot. I told him where I live. I come on, get in my car. Oh, my God. Here this lady with this big old Mercedes truck. She must have some money. When I got to my house, you know, something hit me in the stomach. This is not right. There's something wrong with this.
Wait, when you got to your house, he was there?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing at her house?
He was there.
She gave me her address and it took her about 2 hours, it seemed like, to get there.
You know, I come right home.
Wait, so you guys agreed to meet at your house that day?
I told you.
You told me to come. No, you told me to come. You told me you live the second house and to come over and take a look at your yard.
I know where that house is.
Yeah, after you told me where you lived at.
But I wasn't looking for you to be there before I get there.
Okay, so let's get an understanding. Let's keep an understanding. You think that he was flirting with you and he thought that...
No, he ain't flirting with me.
Okay.
No.
Well, she sure flirted with me. She was trying to take me out of town to Miami.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by that?
Coming up, did he make a play for her pocketbook?
That's a lie. You're too old to be lying.
He had the contract already written out.
Or did she make a play for the player?
She told me she'll rent whatever kind of car I wanted, or we could drive her Benz. We could get separate hotel rooms.
So y'all were talking about more than just landscaping.
And later, Judge Faith must decide who is telling the truth and who's telling a tall tale.
At the time of the accident, who was in your car?
My dog, my son, and my husband was a passenger.
That's nowhere near true. It's called perjury.
This is what you said in your statement. The reason why you say you felt uncomfortable staying there, waiting any longer, is because you were there with your child.
Can I tell you
That to me infers that your husband was not with you.
Plaintiff Liddell Walker says she paid landscaper Isaac Williams to return her lawn to its former glory, but instead, he took all the money and left her yard unfinished. The defendant says he completed the job and that Miss Dell is being unreasonable.
We're going to get to the lawn in a second, but what do you mean by that?
You know,
She tried to get me. She told me she had
Hold on a second,
She told me she had paid for a trip to go to Miami 2 years ago, and she ain't wanted to expire, and she needed a vacation, and she was gonna give me money to. She was gonna rent a car, or we could drive her Benz. And then she would give me money for my pocket. We can get separate hotel rooms.
So y'all were talking about more than just landscaping.
No, ma'am.
That
She was.
This
she
is
was.
another
It wasn't me.
case.
Miss Walker, did you have a free trip to Florida? Miss Walker, did you have a trip to Florida that you had planned?
I've been having this trip for 5 years. I said, you know,
And that
I
you wanted me to take you down there.
You said you wanted to go.
When you asked me, she was like, we could drive down, we could sightsee. She was like, we could take a road trip.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
And I said the reason why I haven't went because I needed somebody to go with me.
Right.
And he said, oh, I go.
No. You asked me.
Hold on 1 second, Mr. Williams.
Will you shut up?
When you
Mr.
start telling
Williams,
the truth, I will.
Please, don't disrespect her like that.
But I'm not. She lying, though, Judge.
No,
Let me tell
that's
the judge
my.
what happened.
That's for me to decide.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
let's get back to the
And
landscaping.
then after I mentioned it, he said, well,
Miss Walker, let me ask you a question about the landscaping, okay?
that's what we've been here for. I don't know where this come up.
You filed this lawsuit because you end up hiring the defendant.
He had the contract already written out.
Okay, let me take a look at that. You have it with you?
Yes, I do. He had it all written out, and I'm saying all of this is weird.
But you did sign this agreement. You did sign this agreement.
I not only have the contract to do my lawn all summer long.
You paid him $475 to basically clean your lawn and do your yard. And that was a one-time payment, correct?
Yeah, he got down there the stuff that he's supposed to do, trim my hedges, manicure my lawn. You know,
now, he did most of this work, but he didn't finish it. That's what you're claiming?
He didn't
what did he not complete?
my lawn. He just cleaned the lawn up. I have hedges. You might see the hedges. I have hedges on one side of my front yard.
Hedges? Okay, why don't we look at those on the flat screen?
They not cut.
Okay, Barbara, would you have me that photo, please?
They not cut.
The hedges?
And he's supposed to trim my hedges.
Okay.
And that
Let's look at those on the flat screen.
In the
Let's look at this photo.
you know, leaves get in between your hedges.
So this is how the hedges were after he finished landscaping your yard? Are those the hedges?
He's supposed to trim them, make them look good.
Well, those are, so why didn't you trim those hedges?
Because they're not on her property. That's the neighbor right at the corner.
It's not my property.
Okay, Mr. Williams.
Yes.
I read your answer in this case. You submitted an answer, and in your answer, you said you called her to come back and trim the hedges. Now, today in court, you're telling me they weren't on her property. Nevertheless, she paid you to trim those hedges. Why didn't you do it?
Because those aren't the hedges that I was supposed to trim.
Okay, that's not what you said in your answer.
The hedges that's supposed to have been trimmed were the ones up front.
Did you trim those hedges?
No, because I didn't have trimmers.
Okay, why didn't you trim those hedges?
Because the same day that I did it, I let Miss Walker knew that Home Depot had my hedge trimmers, and that as soon as they got out, that I would trim her hedges.
Okay, so eventually you got your trimmers. Did you go back to trim the hedges?
2 weeks ago.
He just got them.
And
2 weeks ago.
Have you been back to trim the hedges?
No, I wasn't going back over there after when she put me through and she was suing me.
What he did, I called him. I did. I really overcalling him. He probably didn't like it. I wouldn't have liked it.
Ms. Walker, I looked at the contract that you have, and you actually admit that you never went back to finish the hedges because you didn't have your clippers, but that was a part of the original agreement. And you paid him the full $400.
Here is the receipt.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
You paid him the full $475. I actually already saw this in evidence. See, don't mess with Ms. Walker, okay? Do not mess with Ms. Walker. I know you have many years of wisdom, but just from my perspective on the bench, seeing these types of cases, it's best that you don't pay someone full price up front before the work is done. Even if you want to give them a partial payment to start, you wait until the work is completed and you're satisfied and then pay the remaining balance.
You know the reason
because the
why
defendant, let me finish, Ms. Walker, because the defendant actually admits that he did not come back and trim the hedges, he admits that he did not complete the job that you paid him for. So I am going to order him to pay you back some of the $475, and you can hire someone else to come in and do the hedges and fix the things. So Ms. Walker, I'm ordering him to pay you $100. You can have someone else continue to maintain your lawn, fix your hedges, whatever you want to do, but I'm ordering you to pay her $100 because you did not complete the job. Verdict for the plaintiff, $100.
Plaintiff Ardell Hayes says he was stopped at a red light when the defendant slammed into his car. He is suing for damages to his vehicle. But the defendant, Amber Robinson, claims the plaintiff refused to wait for a police report and now is overcharging her for the damage to his vehicle. Joining her in court is her husband, Michael Robinson.
Okay, Mr. Ardell Hayes, you are suing the defendant, Amber Robinson, for $2,200 for damages to your car as a result of a car accident?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you tell me what happened?
Come to a red light, I'm sitting there, bam, get hit in the back. Kind of threw me, because I really didn't know what was going on. I've never been in an accident, so I'm sitting there dazed, like, whoa, what the heck? Oh my God, I just got hit. So I put my car in park, I get out, and I look at her, and she's all like, oh, she gets out of her car, I'm sorry, I couldn't stop. You know, my flip-flop got caught on the gas pedal. So I immediately look down, she's got on socks and flip-flop, and I'm going, okay, yeah, no wonder, okay.
Socks and flip-flops?
Yeah. So,
is that a fashion statement in Michigan?
Next on Judge Faith.
I think the fact that you are now saying that your husband was in the car with you and witnessed this entire incident is highly questionable based on what you wrote in your statement to this court.
Plaintiff Ardell Hayes says he was stopped at a red light when the defendant slammed into his car. He is suing for damages to his vehicle. But the defendant, Amber Robinson, claims the plaintiff is overcharging her for the damages.
Did you call the police?
We did. We called the police, and we're in Detroit, so we waited and waited. After a while, we just kind of went on having a conversation. She called her insurance company, I called mine. So while we were waiting, we spoke to the insurance companies, and after about an hour, a little longer, the police never showed up. So her insurance company said, well, as long as you guys exchange information, then you really don't have to wait for the cops. She was with her son and her dog.
So you didn't wait for the police, you left?
Excuse me?
I said, in my husband.
Your husband what?
I said, in my husband.
I'm sorry, can you speak up?
I said, in my husband.
Okay, your husband was in the car
Yeah,
as
he
well?
wasn't driving. I was driving.
No,
you
no,
were
no,
a
no.
passenger
Wait
in
a
the car?
minute. I'm sorry. This guy showed up after we spoke to the insurance company, so I don't know what she's talking about right now.
At the time of the accident, who was in your car when you admit that you hit the back of his car. At the time of the accident, who was in your car?
My dog, my son, and my husband was a passenger.
That's nowhere near true, all right? It's called perjury. You guys know what that is?
Let me hear from you, sir.
Well,
can you step up, please? State your name.
Mike Robinson.
Okay, Mike, tell me what you witnessed.
I was in the passenger, and
Speak up, Mike. Your lying is kind of
I was on my phone, and
you lied about my socks.
actually was
So we already know you're lying.
it was a yellow light, and we really thought he was just gonna go.
It was a red
So we were
light. I
kinda
was
going
sitting
for it.
still behind other cars.
And then
Stop, sir. Let me hear what he's saying.
we seen him slam his brakes, and then we.
So
went
where
to
were you?
stop.
Let me ask you, where were you coming from that day? No, I'm asking your husband. Where were you coming from that day?
A pawn shop.
Okay. You know, this is interesting because I want to read to you what you said in your answer in this case. You talk about the entire incident and how you were concerned because you had this accident in the Detroit area and it was just you and your 8-year-old daughter with you, and how you were afraid because you didn't want to be in that area by yourself, and you make no mention of your husband being with you in the car in this accident at all.
It was
so what's going on? What's going on? I mean, that is a significant fact, because if your husband is in the car, that means that he is a witness to this entire incident. You wrote out an entire statement and make no mention of the fact that your husband is in the car with you. The first time I've heard of this is today in court.
Your Honor, honestly, no one ever asked if there was a witness in the car. I said I was concerned for my 8-year-old son.
So you're saying that my clerk who spoke to you about this case got it wrong?
No one ever asked, like, who was in the car. I said I was concerned about my 8-year-old son. I didn't know it mattered who was in the car. I was the one driving.
Was your husband in the trunk? Because he was not in the passenger seat when I was driving.
Here's what you said in your statement. The reason why you say you felt uncomfortable staying there, waiting any longer, is because you were there with your child.
Can I tell you
that to me infers that your husband was not with you, because you felt uncomfortable because you were there with your child in that area.
How, like, it happened. Like, I bumped into him and I called the cops. He didn't even want to call the cops. I bumped him. I was nervous.
So you leave. Let's get to the rest of the case.
He wanted to leave. I wanted to stay for the police.
I think the fact that you are now saying that your husband was in the car with you and witnessed this entire incident is highly questionable based on what you wrote in your statement to this court. So I don't know if you showed up to court today and you decided you were going to try to make your case better for you by bringing in a witness who is your husband.
I didn't even know him being a witness was anything. I was the one that hit him, so I didn't.
You have a seat, thank you. What happened? So let's get to the damages, because the bottom line is you admit to rear-ending his car.
Correct.
So the real question here is damages, because you are now disputing the damages and the amount that he says you owe him for the damages.
Your Honor, he was driving pretty recklessly, and he was in a rush for a baseball game.
I was doing my wheel like this.
So he pulled in front of me, and I didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was going to run through the stoplight. I have no damages to my car. I did not bump his car. It's whatever.
But you rear-ended him, and you understand that when you rear-end someone else, there is a presumption under the law that you were in the wrong, because you should. And you say in your statement,
understand, 100%.
Hold on one second. You say in your statement that you were wearing flip-flops, and your flip-flops got caught in the car. So why are you saying now that he was driving recklessly?
And now, Judge Faith rules.
Based on your statement, you've come into this court today and you haven't told anything that sounds close to the truth.
Ma'am, he didn't want to wait for the police. So what I had did is I gave him my insurance number, my phone number, and I explained to him.
Hold on, let's stop right here. Let's stop. Because
I actually have proof that I tried to help him.
What do you mean you tried to help him? You hit his car. That's what you're supposed to do. No. He's not a charity case. He just wants the damages paid for his car. I've heard enough. I don't have to hear anything else, because I came in here today and I looked at the fact that you didn't wait for the police. You have to wait for the police when you have an accident because of cases like this, when someone says, well, that wasn't the damage that I caused, but you didn't wait for the police to document it. So I came in here today thinking that I was going to perhaps rule one way based on the evidence that you submitted to the court. But because you came in and brought your husband, you say your husband was in the car, and he wasn't in the car, you know it, I know it, and the plaintiff knows it, but you came in here today, you thought you were going to bring a witness to try to help your case. My judgment in this case is for the plaintiff, $2,200 paying for the damage to his car.